give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Mr. President, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the delegation of Chile for taking the initiative to organizing this debate on the maintenance of international peace and security, focusing on inclusive development. I wish to thank the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the keynote speakers, the Chairman of the Peace Building Commission, Ambassador Antonio de Guara Patriota of Brazil, and Ms. Leima Gaboe, Nobel Peace Laureate, President of the Gaboe Peace Foundation of Africa. We also welcome the adoption of the presidential statement earlier today. Mr. President, the government of Somalia is keen to learn and develop all strategies that will foster inclusive development in Somalia. Our country entered a new era of pursuing peace, stability and prosperity for all Somalis. Somali government has built foundation and laid down necessary background not only for stabilizing the nation, but also ensuring reform. The New Deal Somali Compact has been a significant force for change. Mr. President, the Somali government's approach to support inclusive politics is through three strategic areas: state building, constitution making, preparing the nation for elections, taking into consideration, and encouraging the involvement of all groups, especially women, youth, and the minorities. The compact goals have guided the Somali federal government, the civil society, and the international community in laying necessary state building blocks, develop legal framework, and governance structures. The Somali government is reviving provisions of health care services in areas liberated from the extremist groups. The government kick-started education campaigns to open schools to reduce the level of illiteracy, thus enrolling additional 78,000 children. Mr. President, as discourse on peace building in Africa continues, it is important for policymakers to consider the plight of women in the continent, a poorly represented majority in the continent that tends to suffer greatly in times of war. With the understanding of the devastating impact of Africa's endemic conflict on women in the continent, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1325. Through this resolution, the Security Council, for the first time in history, acknowledged the plight of women living in African war zones, as well as the manner in which in African war zones, as well as the manner in which most peace-building and peacekeeping efforts had excluded them. Another solution that the UN has implemented regarding this exclusion of women is the commissioning of a study that will look into the implementation of additional resolutions on women and security, including resolutions 1820, 1888, 1960, and 2122. With this study, the UN will understand how well the resolutions are aiding the women in conflict zones and the additional ways in which it can involve them in peace building. Mr. President, the Africa Development Bank commissioned a report, put together a high-level panel chaired by President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The report is titled Ending Conflict and Building Peace in Africa, a Call to Action. It is reported that one of the main challenges that will face Africa and need to be addressed are the youth unemployment and urbanization, special focus on empowering women in peace building, peace building and state building processes at all levels. We strongly welcome the African leaders and scholars' effort to try to find solutions to Africa's chronic problems. There are certain issues that need to be considered. First, the rapid change that the continent is currently experiencing places Africa in a precarious position. Whereas the population growth and the economic progress are positive factors, they can increase the fragility of the continent if policymakers do not handle them properly. Managing the change that continent is undergoing is the key, ensuring that Africa does not become a fragile and that it continues to grow. Youth unemployment ensures that the millions of young people in the continent contribute to their nation's growth and do not become disenfranchised. This way, a potential problem becomes an advantage. This is especially the case for countries with ongoing conflict, such as Somalia, Nigeria, and Libya. Mr. President, in conclusion, over the past decade, the UN Security Council has been a great assistance in Somalia's steady progress into peace, something that the Somali people deeply appreciate. In return, the country is working hard to become a strong member of the international community. So that it may contribute positively to the global development. As the country moves forward, it still faces numerous challenges, some of which can be solved through inclusive development. Indeed, the federal government of Somalia recognizes the need for inclusive politics, justice, and economic progress if the country is to move forward. Inclusive development for a country such as Somalia will involve the implementation of projects on a grassroots level so that they can involve the average Somali people. In particular, special focus on empowering women in peace building at state building processes at all levels. The success of this new strategy would allow Somalia to emerge from the 24-year civil war a stronger nation than it had been before the conflict started. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Somalia